speakers, press releases. Jack Haynes has been our rock for years. He's the one who started our golf tournament, our scholarship program. Benny Clary, is Benny here yet?
Yeah, he's here.
Benny back there? Okay. Benny's been a lifelong member of it for 45 years, and he'll be honored today with the NKU first people here. Tom Burns, is Tom here? I don't think he would be here today. John Gracious is up at the door. He's our sergeant of arms. He works the front door at all our meetings, and he's our chief cook and bottle washer at all of our events. Ron Snyder is the chairman of our scholarship funds. Denny Bowman, I saw Denny in the back there. Denny's the chair of our summer reunion, and that's where him and Ron and them raise the money for our scholarships. And we've, in 5 years since we started this program, we've raised over $17,000 and we gave away the scholarships. John Wenderfer, John is in charge now of our golf outings. He took over for Jack. Jack's going to be 90 in May this year, so he thought he'd turn it over to a younger person, get somebody else broke in. He's doing a great job. So that's our board of directors. So I want to welcome everybody to our induction and Christmas party. The induction from 1 to 2. The Christmas party will be 2 to 4. We have Pat Black here from Skyline Chili. They've been one of our sponsors for 20 years. They'll have free chili, food, and we'll have drinks and everything from 2 to 4. So this is sort of like Christmas, naughty and nice. Y'all can't be naughty from 1 to 2, and we're having inductions and they have to televise it. But then if you're nice, then it's good, or naughty, not naughty, and nice at 2 o'clock, then let everybody, we'll be nice and let everybody drink and you don't have to. So we'll try to get this done as fast as we can today. We're going to announce Dr. Claypool Pioneer Award. This will be presented each year in the future at our Northern Kentucky Scholarship meeting. We're also inducting the first women's basketball coach at NKU, Marilyn Scroggin-Moore. And TBN will televise this from 1 to 2, and they'll provide copies to the Barrington Crawford Museum and to the Northern Kentucky Archives. I saw Mr. Grout come in. John, are you here?
Yeah.
John has a presentation he wants to make. John is a teacher in the educational field for over 50 years. He was at Holmes High School. He was a baseball coach at Holmes' 1963 baseball championship team. He's been a principal at Ludlow, adjunct professor at X University, director of partnerships with Northern Kentucky, and the commissioner of education. He's also served 5 years at Crestview City Council, 10 years as Kentucky State Legislator, and he served as a county commissioner since 2010. And he's here today to present an award to Mr. Claypool. John, would you come up?
Kind introduction. So this means I remember seeing Newton one time at the basketball banquet. They gave him all these accolades, and I said, all that means is you've been around a long time. Well, I've been around a long time, but for sure. Joe asked they've established a new award. I think it's called the Pioneer Award, although I didn't. You stole that from Kent County Fiscal Court, so that's the one that we created, the Pioneer Award. But anyway, I'm on behalf of the Kent County Fiscal Court. I have a proclamation for Jim Claypool. I can see that there he is. Jim's been a friend of mine for a long time. He's been around a long time too, so he's done a lot of things. But I'll read this. Jim, if you right up there. As one of the founding members of Northern Kentucky University, Dr. James Claypool will be retiring after 34 years of service, ranging from professor of European history to the first NKU Dean of Admissions. Dr. Claypool's contributions to the university include hiring most of the people who work in the admissions and registrar's office and helping to form an identity for NKU by suggesting they have an athletics program which celebrates 50 years this year in 2021. And whereas Dr. Claypool also founded the Steele Library Archives in 1982, his 10 years of work in the archives introduced him to Kentucky history, and he is the only NKU professor to teach the topic. He has made Kentucky history one of the most popular courses in the history department at NKU. Whereas Dr. Claypool has been inducted into the NKU Athletic Hall of Fame, the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame, and the Kentucky Veterans Hall of Fame. His love of sports was realized at a young age as he played baseball, basketball, football, ran track, and was a swimmer. He was an amateur softball player in various leagues, and while in the Army, he lettered in football. He lettered in football at Center College until he was injured and his play ended. Along with the founding of athletics at NKU, over 50 years ago, Dr. Claypool was the chair of the NKU Athletics Committee and administrative head of athletics from 1970 to 78, which included hiring coaches, athletic directors, budgeting, adherence to the NCAA regulations, and representing NKU at athletic conferences nationwide. He instituted one of the first programs nationwide that gave both women and men equal scholarships. He chose NKU's school colors as well as a sports team nickname of Norse, and oversaw the construction and design of Regents Hall, NKU's first sports facility. We, the Kent County Fiscal Court, do hereby present Dr. Claypool this Lifetime Achievement Award, and signed by Chris Knopfman and my fellow commissioners. He forgot to add that he played football at Beechwood, and in fact, he played against me. The first game ever played on Beechwood Field. Of course, the reason he forgot that, we beat him 20-0. And I scored 3 touchdowns. But anyway, Jim's been a good friend and certainly done a lot to help Northern Kentucky, particularly athletics, and really accomplished a lot. And congratulations, Jim.
What John didn't say is we tackled him a few times that game. He was the quarterback.
Want to get a picture, John, or anybody? And remember to vote often and vote drown. That's what you vote.
Thank you, John. I was just going to mention on Jim Claypool's thing for the award here. He graduated from Beechwood High School. He played football, team captain in '56. He played basketball, lettered in '54 through '56. And baseball in 1956. He went to Center College, lettered in football '56 to '57. He became a writer. He's written 9 books that were published. Many articles appeared on TV and radio shows. He's a noted racetrack historian at the Turfway Park. And he's recognized for his knowledge of the history of the Kentucky Derby. In 1970, he was hired to be the first Northern Kentucky State Dean of Students. He founded the archives. At this time, I would like to present our award to Mr. Claypool. This award There's many of them. We're familiar probably with the Bill Capital Award we started when the bill passed. And we've been giving that for like the last 17 years. And this will be the same. This award will be presented at our scholarship fundraiser every year to a member of our Hall of Fame of Northern Kentucky that shows the same qualities and that Jim showed in leadership. Jim, basically it says, I won't read it off, some of us go with all your other things. That you're a dean of students of nations, later founding member of the university. You're chair of the athletic committee, responsible for hiring coaches, athletic directors, budgeting, and representing Northern at all meetings. Initiated the first program that gave men and women equal scholarships and chose the school's colors in the nickname Norse. Dr. James Claypool Award will be presented annually to a deserving Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame member. Congratulations.
Is that my segue to start speaking, Joe? Okay. I'm going to make 3 very bold declarations today. The first of that is if we were to chronicle the athletic achievements of all the people gathered here today, we would spend endless hours. I doubt seriously you would gather more great athletes and coaches and people interested in sports in any civic setting in Northern Kentucky's history. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about Northern and its history. I came to Northern in February of 1970. I was the first employee hired by Frank Steele. Oh, they were happy to see us. They didn't give us any offices. And they were irate that they were going to lose their UK basketball tickets. But we survived. Dr. Steele arrived in April, and he and I shared a desk. I sat here, he sat there. That was the college for 10 weeks. Eventually, we moved up to the Hill, the old Northern Kentucky Extension College, where we had 2 buildings and a lot of trailers. Along the way, I was following the course of women's athletics. In 1970, the University of California, Cal Fullerton, won the national championship in women's basketball. The first time they ever played full court basketball in a national tournament in the United States. Up until then, women played half court because it wore them out too much. They said, yeah, sure. In 1973, the University of Miami in Florida made national headlines when they awarded women scholarships. They gave women scholarships in diving, swimming, golf, and tennis. That's it, folks. In 1975, Division I, UCLA made national headlines when they gave a woman the first female basketball scholarship. Her name was Ann Myers, and she ended up marrying Don Drysdale. I talked to her once. She said, we practiced on the junior varsity gym that first year, and our sports, women's sports, were located in a green double wide. A long way to go. So with all that in mind, hearkening back to the fact that I went to Center College, Center had made a national reputation in the 1920s by, first of all, playing and eventually upsetting the #1 team in the nation, Harvard. Center beat Harvard in 1921, 6-0. And all over Kentucky. Thank you, Phil. He played with me at Center. And all over Kentucky, on cows and barns and every place else, it was C6 HO. And that's not a chemistry formula in Kentucky. I knew that had helped make a reputation for Center. It had been mentioned by President Woodrow Wilson, by Grantland Rice. And here we were, 2 buildings, and nobody cared anything about us. I was going out to these nightly college gatherings, and the counselors who all had gone to Murray, Eastern, Western, Moorhead, were telling everybody, Northern's not going to be accredited, Northern's not going to have good faculty, and Northern's going to be under budgeted. Well, like Meatloaf once said, they were right about 2 out of 3. We were underfunded. And so I got my courage up one day in June of 1970 and walked all the way. No, I didn't have to walk at all. I looked at Frank in the eyes and I said, Frank, I want to talk to you about something. And he said, what is it? Now, Frank Steele was all of 5'6", had never read Sports Illustrated, and lone experience in sports was he was a male cheerleader at Hazel High School. And now I'm trying to talk him into starting sports at Northern, knowing that if we did, we would make a reputation, which we did, of course. And after 45 minutes of not getting anywhere, I finally got my chance. I knew this about Frank. He had an Achilles heel, and that was he had an innate sense of fairness. And so he said, well, if we do this sports thing, what should we have? And I said, well, we have to have men's basketball and men's baseball. We have to have women's basketball and women's volleyball, which is very popular in our area. And if we do this, Frank, I absolutely insist that we give women and men equal scholarships. And that did it. That was the moment that the sports program at NKU blossomed. We went on to hire Moat Hills. His son, Mike, who used to work with me, is here today. And all I can say about Moat Hills is there was only one Moat Hills. When they made him, they threw the mold away. We hired Marilyn Scroggin-Moore to be the first female coach. And of course we hired Bill Aker, whose wife, Joni, is here today. Bill Aker, my close friend Bill Aker, who is a legend. Won 806 games, went to 2 national championships, and was famous for Akerisms. Akerisms. Let me tell you one. Did you know that a grand slam is not as good as a 3-run home run unless 4 people score? Don't tell me that. It's not as good. That's one of the many 100 Akerisms. And so we hit the ground running. We took on that vaunted basketball program, Capital Christian, and beat them by 44 points. We signed our first basketball signee from Newport Public High School, Jimmy Mack. And we signed players from all over Northern Kentucky on purpose. We spread it out on purpose from Grant County and Pendleton County. It was exciting. It was a happening. It was an absolute happening. And our women were busy at work too. They took on a school called Kentucky. They beat them. Then they took on a school called Louisville. They beat them. And did they wake them up? And did Moat wake up Xavier when we played them and split with them 2-2? Xavier decided to put some money in basketball, as evidenced by the crosstown shootout last week. So we were hitting the ground running. We were doing the right things, and we were hiring people. But it wasn't just the athletes. Carla Hardeback-Agan came to me and said, we need Golden Girls. I was an easy touch. Sure, we'll have Golden Girls. Linda Larkin and Marcia Battaglia said, we need cheerleaders. Sure, we'll have cheerleaders. Larry Giesman came to my office and said, I'll coach wrestling free. All you have to do is buy me some mats. It will cost you another thing. If you believe that, I'll sell you a bridge. And so it went. Northern's program. But let's stop here and make the second bold assertion. And that is Northern Kentucky State College, soon to be Northern Kentucky University, I believe, and I've researched this carefully, was the first school in the United States to give women full scholarships in basketball and volleyball.
Amen.
lot, as you well know. And all have we succeeded. We have won 2 national championships in Division II women's basketball. We won a national championship in men's soccer in Division II. Kenny Shields, my good friend Kenny Shields, took us to 2 national championships in basketball. And the list goes on and on. And the people come to see us. If you saw what we started out with, oh, I want to tell a quick story. As dean of students, I had a lot of students from Africa. And one of them, work study. He had to have a work study scholarship. But he couldn't do anything. He couldn't do a thing. He was totally incompetent. And we didn't know what to do with him because he needed the money. So I called him in my office and I said, well, let me ask you something. Where are you from? He said, Nigeria. And I said, well, where did you live in Nigeria? And he said, I lived in a village. And I said, you lived in a village? He said, yes. I said, is it true that everybody in the village has some job? And he said, oh yeah. I said, what was your job? He said, I was a rock picker. I picked up rocks. And I said, well, get yourself over to our baseball field over there. Find Bill Aker. And you got a job. And he picked a mountain of rocks. A mountain. And the very next year, Bill calls me up and said, you got any more of those rock pickers? We still get together from time to time. Joni Aker holds events for the baseball players, the basketball players, and the baseball players get together. And I'm going to close by telling you something that happened about 8 or 9 months ago. We were up at the country club in Park Hills, and I was gathered with several of the early players. And all of a sudden they got up and jointly said, we want to toast you for all that you did for us. Folks, it doesn't get any better than that.
Amen.
Let me now segue into somebody I asked to come today, former athlete in his own right. One of the things that Northern discovered very quickly was we could attract great talent because there was a glut of jobs when we started. And we attracted one of the top scholars in the United States, Bob Wallace, who also is a great sports fan. I've asked Bob to come here and talk about his book, chronicling Nancy Winstall's first season of championship, the second season of championship in 1978. Now, Nancy, I remember you as a player. You were a bulldog. And remember this about you couldn't shoot, but you were a bulldog. And I remember this about both Nancy and Bill Aker. They meant what they said, and they said what they meant, and you better pay attention.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's a great honor to be here with so many people who built our athletics program and made it what it is today. I've written my comments out and keep them short, so I can go on forever on this subject. In the early 1960s, I was a golf star in the state of Washington. My high school team won 2 state championships, and in college I played in 2 national tournaments. My basketball career was much shorter. In junior high, I was a 5'10" forward who could rebound and shoot. In high school, I was too short to be a forward and too slow to be a guard. The coach cut me as soon as Nancy Winstall would have. I went to grad school in New York City in the late 60s. It was a great time to be a fan of the Knicks and the Nets. But my best year as a fan came 4 years later when I wrote this book about Nancy Winstall's women's team. I came to the new Highland Heights campus straight out of grad school in '72. 2 years later, Nancy was a student in one of my classes. One day she said she joined a basketball team they're starting up here at the school. I went to see her play, and I've been a fan of women's basketball ever since. My interest in the team intensified when Nancy became our coach in '83. To watch her build our team as it entered the GLVC was a true pleasure. We had a large faculty group that attended almost every game. My purest pleasure as a fan came every spring when 4 of us would drive to Evansville, Indiana to watch our team play in the conference tournament. In the late 1990s, we had a team with Michelle Cottrell at center and Michelle Tukfarber at guard that looked pretty special. In the year 2000, we saw them win not only the conference championship, but the NCAA regional. My friends and I have always regretted that we did not cancel our classes and follow that team to Arkansas, where they won the national championship. In the spring of 2006, we had another special team. They won the conference tournament and made the finals of the regional. My friends, Carmen Graham, Karen Krager, and Brittany Winter would be coming back as seniors in the fall. Angela Healy and Nicole Chiotti would be juniors next year. Cassie Brannon, a sophomore, and Katie Butler as a transfer. This looked like another team that could compete for the national championship. I asked Coach Wenzel if it'd be okay if I tried to write a book about the next season. She and Jane Meyer said I could give it a shot. I went to afternoon practices several times a week. I went to all the home games and traveled to a lot of the away games too. The first away game was against UK in Memorial Hall. The last away game was at the NCAA Regional near Chicago, where the season ended by 1 point in a freak shot at the buzzer. I bet Nancy remembers that shot. My academic books sometimes take 10 years to write. This one had to be much quicker. I interviewed each player in my English department office before the season began. During the season, I would wait under the bleachers with Mark Harden from the Kentucky Post until the players came out of the locker room so I could ask them about the game. I wrote up each game before we played the next one. The first great disappointment was when Carmen Graham suffered a very serious injury and missed much of the season. We lost games we should have won. One day Winslow came up to me at practice and said, "You make me nervous writing down all those notes. Will you put that pen and pencil away?" And I did put them away. I became more of a journalist than a scholar for the rest of the season. Our record was only 7-5 in January, but the team began to adjust to Carmen's injury and went 13-1 for the rest of the regular season. Watching the coaches and players rebuild their dreams and remake their season was probably more impressive than the season we hoped to have. We won the first round of the GLVC tournament, but lost in the final. Even so, we were the number 2 seed in the regional and had a good chance of making the national tournament until that freak shot cut everything short. This was not the season we had expected, but the team had a lot to be proud of. And I had a lot to write about. By spring of the next season, my book was going into production, and Nancy's new team was peaking. They lost in the finals of the GLVC tournament, and this time they swept the NCAA regionals. This time I did cancel classes so I could go see them play in the national tournament in Nebraska. We were the lowest seed of the Elite Eight, but we played 3 very strong games to win the national championship. Led by Healy, Chiotti, and Brannon, plus transfer student Jesse Slack, Winsel's team turned the adversity of the previous season into the highest possible collegiate athletic achievement. They did so just in time for me to add their championship season as the final chapter of my book. So I spent 6 years in graduate school, but watching Winslow coach 12 young women for 1 full season at Regents Hall is one of the best learning experiences I've ever had. Thank you, Nancy.
you, Rick. I'd like to announce that he has a few copies of his books. Or he said he might have 5 or 6 of them left.
That's right.
And he will autograph them if anybody wants to purchase them for Christmas presents or whatever. He'll autograph them after the meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce a couple more people in administration. Rick Myers. Rick started at NKU doing stats for the basketball team. He graduated in '77 and then was hired as a sports information director. His media guide in '78, '79 was named the best in the nation by College Sports Information Directors of America. He was promoted to NKU spokesperson in '86 to continue to work all the men's and women's games. He kept scores, stats, filled in on radio and cable TV whenever necessary. He took over the NKU official scores in the early 2000s and has filled that role for the last 2 decades. This fall, he'll begin his 50th year working for us. He was a member of the NKU Athletics Hall of Fame and Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame since October of '92. We also have another old-timer we'd like to read. Benny Clary. He was a scoreboard operator in '72. 31 years later, he retired in 2003 along with Coach Shields. Northern Kentucky Scorers Table was voted the best by many years in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. Benny has put more points on the scoreboard than anyone else who's ever made a basket. So, is Rick and Benny here? Can you please come and get your picture taken with Jim? And also, Phil Tolliver played with Beechwood and that with Jim. And he was on Board of Regents at NKU. Would you come up and free to get your picture taken?
Can I, Jim left out the most important
Yeah, on
fact.
your way up there, big picture.
I was really upset with Jim because he didn't tell you all that he and I were famous football players at Center College. And he was a 140-pound guard, and I was a 170-pound tackle. And sometimes, when we were 5 minutes ahead, we were way far ahead, we got to play 5 minutes. Right, Jim?
Go right ahead.
The most important thing, though, that he left out, I was shocked. His beautiful wife, Sharon, is solely responsible for all the success he's had all of these years. And so Sharon, she went to Center College, where Dodd graduated from. Would you stand up so that we can give her a round of applause? Yes. Oh, okay.
While we're ad-libbing Bill, thank Bill Lamb for coming to see me, my assistant for many years, and thank Jack Moreland, the biggest presidential supporter of athletics at NKU. I want to thank my brother and my son, Jim, my brother Mike, for being here tonight. Sharon, incidentally, went to school with the greatest high school basketball player in Kentucky history. His name was King Kelly Coleman. Yeah. And she played on the first women's field hockey team at Center. So everybody's here. You know, you guys are my kind of people. They're all athletes.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, I'd like to say something about Penny. Penny Clary. Because after Clark and Ludlow, Ludlow playing Hebron with John Strickler. There was about 1 minute left. Hebron's winning 62-61. Clark goes out. Comes back on later. Ludlow's winning 62-61 and in never got it. The biggest win Penny Clary ever had.
Okay, thank you all.
And that's a true story.
Okay, our inductee for today is Marilyn Scroggin-Moore. Marilyn started her teaching and coaching career at Boone County High School, After a successful stint in Boone County, she was hired as first basketball and volleyball and softball coach at Northern Kentucky State College. She's credited with starting the women's athletic program. As a basketball coach, she had a 137-73 record, 652 winning percentage. She had 320-win seasons, including a 28-2 record and 75-76. That season, the team won the KWIC and qualified for the AIAW tournament, going 2-1. In the 76-77 season, they won 19-11, won the KWIC and again qualified for the tournament. The 78-79 season, they won 25-10 and qualified for the women's NIT, reaching the third round. After 2 more seasons, she retired to get married and start a family. She was also the first volleyball coach at NKSC. She coached for 3 years. The team had an overall record of 82-32. The South Region Major College Tournament advanced to the finals in Salt Lake City in 1977. She returned to coach at Stevens Elementary School, and she's been honored by having the gymnasium named after her. And then I'd like to add that she did all of this at MKU while she was teaching 12 hours a week in classes. Would you please welcome Marilyn Scroggin-Moore.
Well, they stole a lot of my thunder, so I'll try to, as I get to areas that have already been covered, I'll just try to skip it and go on. But I'm honored and humbled to be here to accept this award. And I thank the committee and the ones that nominated me. I've been blessed to live through the evolution of girls' sports in Northern Kentucky. And that's what I would kind of like to share with you, just a little bit of time, to tell you how sports grew in Northern Kentucky. As a high school student in the late 60s, we did not play varsity sports. There were none. You played, if you wanted to play basketball, you played as a club sport, and of course it was a 6-player game. It's even hard to explain it to anybody that's never seen it. You had 2 stationary people, girls, that played offense. And on this end, you had 2 stationary defensive players. Now, you were allowed to have 2 that could bring the ball back and forth. And they could run up and down the floor, but then they had to rotate because, as they said, girls couldn't run continuously up and down for a whole game. And that was basketball. And when I was in high school, it had been kind of high school to play. And then, as in 5 years later, I returned to Boone County High School as their physical education teacher and a coach, and I coached their varsity 5-player basketball team. So within that period of time, things were moving rapidly in our area. In Northern Kentucky, we had very strong women physical education that highly skilled programs. People like Sally Ming from Bellevue, and help me. Margie Kemp from Campbell County.
Nancy Berry.
Yes, Nancy Berry and Nancy Jones was in Boone County.
Joe Mitchell.
And Joe Mitchell, yes. And all of these were just tremendous, yes, physical educators, and they coached the beginnings of the varsity basketball. So, and also during this time in 1974, the state of Kentucky initiated their first women's basketball state tournament. And while we're talking about this in Northern Kentucky, the Northern Kentucky representative to go to this first tournament was Newport High School with Donna Murphy, and they made it to the finals. Did they win that game? No, they lost in that game. So, you could see how Northern Kentucky was a hotbed and had, of athletes, and from a very strong, developed program. So I went on and to initiate, after this basketball team, and times were changing so quick that we were now in the 70s, and I would ask when I was hired at Boone County High School, what would my jobs be? And I think they touched on this, but I just want to tell you what it is that we had to do. They said, well, you will be a physical education teacher, and you will teach health and physical education. And we would like for you to coach the girls volleyball team, basketball team, track and field team, boys, girls, and boys tennis team. And by the way, the sponsor just retired, so would you also be responsible for taking care of the cheerleading squad? So that was my interview, and that's what they said. And then they said, well, what do you say? And I said, well, I say yes. And I thought to myself, how hard could it be, right? Well, I was there for 2 years, and then the job at Northern Kentucky State College opened up. So I went to interview, and as I was at that search committee, were you at that meeting? Ah, I didn't know. I knew Dr. Davis. I thought you were probably there, and I don't even remember how many were there. I was probably so nervous at that point. But I asked them, what would my responsibilities be? Thinking it might be a little bit less than it was when I was in high school. Well, this is what they told me. You will teach a full load, like they told, 12 hours in physical education, and you are to begin the basketball and volleyball programs. And by the way, the Golden Girls sponsor just retired, so would you please take on the squad? Well, I said yes, of course, and then I thought to myself, how hard could it be? So that was the way it was around the 70s, the beginning of the 70s, how women's sports were just so rapidly changing, it was hard to keep up. But to be a part of all of that was so exciting. Just to give you just a little bit of information about the beginning days, of my perspective of the beginning days at Northern. I told them I had a player that I wanted to bring with me, Marion Keegan from Boone County, and I had talked to Bill Dollar. I forgot about it. He was not the woman, but he was one of the few men at that point in basketball in Northern Kentucky High School. And he said he had two strong girls, Linda Niehaus and Teresa Rump, and that, see, I didn't know you had already said that you would give the women's aid. See, I didn't know that at that point. And so I said, I would like to bring these 3 girls in, but they're going to have to have some help. And the college, and I said, Dr. Claypool gave us 3 partial scholarships, and thus we began. This was big, like he said, and it was big because no one in the state of Kentucky, there was money in the University of Kentucky's girls athletic program. I think it was $90,000, but not $1 was given to aid the athlete, not one. And so for us to have 3 that were on partial scholarships was a big deal. And of course, that flew around the state very fast. And we got the repercussions of it every time we went to play because, we were the upstart team from Northern Kentucky that thought they were something. And, we were the ones to knock off. And so every game was hard. They took their best shot at us. And that's kind of the way it was. Just to give you a little bit more about the first team, I held a tryout, because remember, I only had 3 girls coming. I held a tryout in Regents Hall and had fielded a team of 11 players, 7 freshmen, 5 upperclassmen. We were one of those upperclassmen. 4 of those had never played on a basketball team. Never played. They were interested in sports, but they never played on a basketball team. And our upperclassmen hadn't played since they were in high school, which was 2 or 3 years ago. And so with this, we began. And I attended Eastern Kentucky University, so I knew a little bit about the KWIC. I played basketball and volleyball and ran track at Eastern. And the KWIC was a Kentucky Women's Intercollegiate Conference. I began making calls and introducing myself and our new program. And at the end, we had 8 small colleges, 7 universities in 3 states, Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. I had no idea how we would do. No idea. And so we got started. And I scheduled teams and I taught classes. I obtained officials and I taught classes. I ran practices and I taught classes. The next thing I knew, Dr. Davis was telling me, I need to pick up my paychecks. I hadn't picked up any of them up for a month. I laughed to myself. I was living my dream. I had a passion in life to teach and coach, and I would have done this if only he knew. I would have done this job for free. The women's basketball team overwhelmed the small college. We were 16-4 at the end of our season. We passed the small college. They didn't want us to come anyway. We went ahead and went to the large college because we'd already beaten the majority of them. And we played to be noticed because that year, again, it's timing, that year was the first invitational basketball tournament in Pueblo, Colorado for small colleges. And we went to the large college so that we could show that we could play and show who we were because we were brand new. And there were 618 small colleges playing in basketball in the country that year, and we were one of the 12 invited to go to Colorado to play. And I mean, as the song goes, that was a very good year. And things were going good. Now, just a minute, because I know you've got a party to do, but I want to tell you just a little bit about the second year. The second basketball year came, and our administration gave us more money. We recruited 5 girls, Penny Niehaus, also from Holy Cross, Diane Redmond from Campbell County, Peggy Ludwig from Notre Dame, Peggy Vinson from Lloyd, and Julie Hill was the only one that wasn't a Northern Kentuckian. She was from Mason, Ohio. And we had a house on Johnson Road that was transformed into a dormitory, of which, of course, I was to be there, and man, put that on my things to do. Things were moving so fast. Northern Kentucky State College began the first volleyball season that year also. So I was coaching volleyball. Most of my athletes played those sports, so the month of October we would begin double practices. Early in the morning we would do basketball and weights and running and conditioning, and later on in the afternoon we would come back and play and have a full round of volleyball practice. I knew I couldn't do this alone. We were going to have help. And I knew you was only good as the people that you surrounded you, so at this point I began to look for wonderful people to share my vision with. Dan Henry had helped me to do some scrimmage practicing in Boone County High School, and he was a student at Northern Kentucky, and so he came and we talked about, could he help me? Would he be the assistant coach? Because I knew there was going to be conflicts, times when volleyball and basketball would both be having games, and I had to have help. Somebody had to take one of the other teams to go on to play. Melvin Webster was made the acting sports information director, and Rick Meyer and Dale McMillan helped to increase our media coverage. Because we were upstart, no one really knew much about us, and they were calling and asking questions because of all the waves that we were making. I just want to say that second year, Dr. Davis put in our college to host the first in our region of tournament of small colleges. The year before, remember, we went to the college tournament to be in it because there was no regional tournament. So Northern University accepted that responsibility, and we had the regional tournament of small colleges at our place, which put us in the small college tournament that year, which the small colleges we didn't like at all. And you have to understand, we were playing. We had, at that point, we had 12 players, and there were games that we would go to that we would leave our starting 5 at home. And, that didn't please some of them, but, we did that because we were winning. We were beating, but we beat Center. I think it was 88-34. And we tried everything to keep the score down. But, that was the difference in the talent that was here and in other places in the state. And But that year, because we were doing the regional, we stayed in a small college, and that year, we went for a 25-game winning streak. We ended the season 28-2. We won the championship with the small college. We were 5th in the regional, and volleyball, while we were at that, won the first year, won the Kentucky State Championship, and finished 3rd in the region. What a start. The women's program blossomed because of people surrounding me. But the best move I ever made, was the small part I played in passing the torch to Jane Shepard-Meyer and Nancy Wenzel. They shaped the Northern sports for the next 20 plus years. But I had a part of that, right? I had a part of it. I want to thank my family for being here, supporting me, loving me. They are the love of my life. My husband for allowing me to come home and cry after losing because of poor decisions that were made. I went home with 2 boys and soon 3. And after they were in school, I went back and spent 25 years in elementary education, working basketball and cross country. What a life I've been proud to have. Thank you so much.
We're going to keep her, Marilyn, up there for just a minute. We want to get a picture with her, Jane Myers. Jane coached volleyball, led NKU to the first GLC championship in '85. She also led the '81 division tournament in NCAA. She coached women's basketball and softball. She then became the athletic director. Under her leadership, NKU won 2 NCAA Division II titles, 20 regional titles. They had 76 tournament appearances and 13 trips to the Final Four. She also saw the basketball program transition to the Banks of Kentucky. On November 8, 2008, 2 other facilities were built on the campus during her tenure. There was Frank Nation's Springfield softball fields and Troy Shedder tennis complex. She was inducted into our Hall of Fame in November 2013. Jane, would you come up here, please? We're waiting for her to come up. Nancy Wenzel, would you please come up too? Her retirement, she ranked 3rd in winnings and 9th in winning percentage among active NCAA Division II women's coaches, 5th in wins and 21st in winning percentages among all-time coaches. She had an overall record of 675 wins, 255 losses, which equals 73%. At NKU, she compiled a record of 636 and 214 with 75%. They won the NCAA Women's Division II basketball championship, first national championship in the history of the school, and the first national championship by Kentucky Women's College in any sport at any level. The 2006-2000 team and wins were subject to 13 women strong to making the team. So we've already introduced that. The book will be for sale here. Anybody wants it immediately after. So please welcome Marilyn, Jane, and Nancy.
One more.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now that brings us to our baseball section. In baseball, Bill Akers was inducted in our Hall of Fame in '87. He was on our board of directors until he passed. He was the first baseball coach at Educated State in '71. He spent 29 years as a head coach. He led MKU to a pair of World Series appearances in '79 and '85. He finished with 807 victories. His team won 30 games 11 times and recorded 40 wins 4 times. Bill was a great member of our board of directors in the Hall of Fame. And I understand his son is here today. Is Bill's wife here today? Joan, could you please come up here and while she's coming up, she also like to honor Todd Essalon. He played baseball for NKU from 1980 to '83 as a pitcher. He was the team captain in his final 2 years. He then went on to TMC for 6 years, where he led them to the first NCAA Division tournament in 2000. In 2001, he became the second coach at NKU. He coached for 21 years before retiring. He led NKU to 8 Division II appearances between 2001 and 2012. Many of his players went on to play Major League Baseball. So would please come up. If there are any baseball players that played on Todd's team here today, would you come up and get a picture with them? We have some of the names here. Mark Sainer, Steve Morris, Gary Simon, John Seymour, Tim Barker, Tim Grogan, Patrick Muldoon, and Harvey Wolf. So is any other players from NKU here? Eddie Egan? That's what we announced Pat here. The whole table here. Baseball players. A little bit.
My 1 year plan. How you doing?
Can you all smile and look at the camera there? I guess they can start work your way over. And for people taking pictures, you can take them and go as far as you can get. While they're getting the pictures, I'd also like to mention that Bill Akers, being the first coach, he did a wonderful job when you stop to consider that when he was recruiting players to come to NKU, they all had to be local players because they did not have any dormitories or a baseball field, baseball facilities at the time. So basically, he started from scratch and built it up and learned it today.
I'm going to share an Akerism with you. Did you know that a grand slam is not better than a 3-run homer unless 4 men score?
Hey, did y'all get all pictures going? Okay, thank you.
Nice job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Another bit of information on Bill Akers that most people don't know was back when he was recruiting players in one of the games, they had to drive their own automobiles, and he had to take players to and from games. And they were allowed $1 for meals, and if they ran more than that, then Bill had to pay for it out of his own pocket. So you got people like Jane, Nancy,
Good job. Good job.
What's up, everyone? Program is now. They really are deeply gratitude to the people that started this in the hard times and build it up to where it is now. Okay, now we'd like to get into our basketball program. Mo Hill's coach, Company Catholic. He was the first coach in Indiana State in 1972. He was the head coach through 7-9 season. He finished with a 119 and 118 one-loss record. He took the North to the first playoff game in '78. This was a major accomplishment as they had no dormitories or gyms.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
He was inducted into our Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame in December of '03. Mo is not here, his son here. Mike, would you please come up and get him a picture when you're done with the rest of them. The next one is Kenny Shields. He finished a 16-year career at NKU with 306 and 170 record. Jim was sorry to mention all the tournaments and everything he's won. We'd also like to bring up this 96-97 team won the school record 30 games. Dropped the national runner-up honor. During this season, Paul Cluxton became the first player in history in NCAA to lead the nation in free throws. He did not miss a shot. He was 94 for 94. He was inducted into our Hall of Fame in 2009 and a member of our board of directors. Dave Wiesel could not be here today. He was still working. He was assistant coach for Kenny for 11 years. He had a 194 and 133 one-loss record in Division II games, 13-17 record in Division I games. He passed along his congratulations to Mr. Claypool, along with John Brandon. John coached 2015 to 2019. In 2017, they won the Verizon League Championship and went to the tournament his first year of Division I eligibility. He was named Coach of the Year. In 4 seasons, he had 2 NCAA berths, 2 Verizon League titles, and 2 tournament championships. He was inducted into our Hall of Fame in April of 2018. Would you please welcome Coach and Mike for Mo up, and also we have a list of basketball players we'd like to come up and get on the picture. Tom Schrage, Doug Overman, Dennis Egan,
Anybody that
Bob Griffin,
plays basketball.
yeah, and Ken Ewell, and Stan Meyer, Steve Meyer. See here, if y'all please come up and get on the picture with Coach. Jim.
What's up, sir? You doing all right?
Okay, the same thing if you want to take pictures, start from the left to the right. And the camera will do the same thing, and we'll get everybody on.
Don't matter. Okay, good. Yep, see you.
While we have these basketball players here, I want to make one more bold assertion. Northern made the national tournament the first year in Division I, the second year in Division I, the third year in Division I, and qualified the fourth COVID year in Division I. We are the only school to ever have done that in Division I.
Thank you. Got the pictures? Okay, thank you. And we have one more group.
Good job.
We have one more group we'd like to honor. Dale McMillan and Hardy Trimble broadcast the games for high school and the NKU games. Dale has passed away, but Hardy Trimble is here. Mel Webster is now here. Mel was a senior college for years. Hardy, please come up here. Hardy Trimble.
Hey Steve, hey, good to see you.
Dan Weber.
Jennifer, remember her?
Dan Weber was the first sports information director in 1971.
They're both doing great.
Dennis Walker is here.
Home, she's the department chair now. So
Wildman Walker
my
here.
middle child, Claudia, just got a job. She just graduated. I got a kid who's a senior. They played on the state championship basketball last year. Yeah, so they're
Dan Weber.
My wife is gone. I married Kenny. My girls are Maria and Claudia. I don't know if you ever met Claudia. They're both.
Mike Tussing and Denny Wright, come on up
There. Mike Hussey, Denny Wright. Anybody else who was in the sports information department?
Denny,
Mike Hussey.
Denny, why don't you come on?
Denny, come on up here.
I heard that. He told me that.
2 doors away.
Yeah, they were right. Yeah, he was right there. He played ball in that circle with Joe and Jim. So he was younger than you. I bet you just dominated Joe. It probably drove him crazy.
Everybody got their pictures? Okay, thank you. We have one other piece of business today we have to do. Jason French is here with the Barrington Crawford Museum, and we formed a partnership with them in 2014. And they've been putting on sports exhibits and collecting memorabilia from our members since then. The curator for the museum, Jason French, is here. Could he please come up? Could you please hold on a few minutes and we'll have them talk, and then Terry Keller, come up. Jason.
Good afternoon. I don't want to take a whole lot of your time. I wanted to thank you for, as an organization, partnering with our museum here in Covington. Behringer Crawford houses the collections of the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. And over the years that I've worked as curator, I've really it's been a lot of fun to get to know the stories that you all hold dear. All of your stories and how it's formed our community in the last 50 or 60 or 100 years. And it's really a pleasure. So as we collect your treasured memories, and we find ways to tell those stories to the public and share them with the public, and that's such an honor for us. So as you are ready to maybe let some of those treasures loose, think about us. Give me a call. I'd love to have a discussion of what you have. We love telling the sports history of our region. Just as someone who's came into this, I find it really pleasurable to see the stories and how we've all kind of grown as a community. There's such a tremendous sports heritage here in our region, going back well over 100 years, that you all are part of. So thank you for sharing that with us so that we can share it with the public as well.
Gary is a Northern Kentucky alum. Gary, would like to say a few words?
We very much value the relationship we have between Behringer Crawford Museum and Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. Joe, of course, started that along with Clary and just on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Behringer Crawford Museum, Joe, and all of you, we'd like to thank you for maintaining that relationship. And I think that it means that this organization will persist well into the future, long after all of us are gone, because of the relationship that you all have established for Behringer Crawford Museum. Thank you so much.
Terry Keller, our president, right over him. Yeah, Gary, don't go nowhere. Come back up here. So, on behalf of the Northern Kentucky Hall of Fame, we want to continue that partnership. It's been a great partnership. We love doing it. So to help continue this partnership, we want to donate $2,000 to the museum. The partnership. Gary, do you want a place in that, or who wants it? Good job. Thank you, Terry. Okay, we're going to have a split the pot drawing. And then when we do that, as soon as we get done, Coach Kenny Shields wants to say a few words, and he'll make them brief, and then we have the chili that over ready to eat. It'll be party time. Some of them already started, but we'll try to hang in here as quick as we can. $125. $182,529. $529. $182,529. We got it in the back room. John. Okay, Coach, let's say a few words here.
Thank you, Joe. I just want to mention a couple things. First of all, I want to compliment Dr. Claypool. We became associate friends over in Syria, and we'd be together periodically. Certainly Marilyn Scroggin-Moore, I taught her son at Northern, and took her boys to my basketball camp. Special congratulations there. I want to mention, he's in Florida now, but Tom Kearns. Tom Kearns was our faculty representative for many years, and he was very dedicated to it. It is much. Mary Kirk, I don't think she's here. And she became the successor to Tom Kearns. Again, thanks to Jason and the Behringer Crawford. I'm just hitting these things real quick here. Very good, good. I think I got most of one. I wanted to mention Jack Moreland was here. I think he might have left. He did a tremendous amount for sports basketball. The 1 year he was there, the 1 year, he elevated the money higher than we had for decades. And of course, when Dr. Vitruva came in, he continued that escalation. So that was very, very special, to say the least. So I mentioned Dan Weber. He writes for the River City News. Does a great job. He was one of the SIDs there, and he did a lot for Northern Kentucky. But thank you all for being here, for sure. It's been a great day. Now we got over here in a few minutes. We're going to have Skyline, and the bar is open. The bar is open. Okay, Jim? Okay. I'm just kidding you, Jim. I know you don't touch it. Okay, so I'll turn it back to Joe.
Okay, thank you all for coming, and our next meeting will be in January. And our guest speaker will be Tom Browning, Mr. Perfect for Cincinnati Reds.
They want to see these pictures in the video.
Bob Griffin's up here. Bob Griffin, and he and his family.
They want to see these pictures and the video of the whole thing. I'll have it all on YouTube and Facebook. Under Travels with John Stevenson, my YouTube site.
You guys saved the day as we went on. Dennis and you and Marty and John, the whole bunch. And thank you very much.
Well, one other thing before we leave, John Stevenson said he'll have the pictures and the video on YouTube under what?
Under Travels with John Stevenson on my YouTube site. The whole thing will be on the YouTube site, all the video and the pictures, and you're welcome to use them, and it's free. YouTube under Travels with Dr. John Stevenson.
Yeah, I'd also like to mention Bob Griffin was here. When we first started, he was a major donor to our organization, and we really appreciated it. And we appreciate everything he's done for Northern Kentucky. Mother's a Catholic, and his company for sports in Northern Kentucky. We all owe him deep gratitude. Thank you, Bob. Okay, let's see.
Get a catch. You don't want that
See what, Brent? Mustard ice, right?
Skyline Chili here. Can't beat Skyline. Holland Enterprises. Graduate of Simon Kenton High School.
Yes, sir. Two all the way.
Hi there. Thank you very much.
I've loved Kentucky as long as I've been born. born here, and I've been born here, let's see, I've lived here 58 years. So but Dad's made Kentucky special. My father's Dr. Clary.
Yeah. Well, he's quite a gentleman.
He is. Love him dearly.
You don't have to have onions, you don't have to have mustard, whatever you want.
Everything's good.
You got it. I do yes. Yeah. Now you hear
Caroline from Erlanger.
We have wraps, burritos, salads.
Where I taught
Just write your
school.
name on it, I'll make sure it's
Erlanger Lloyd High School.
$10.
I was the head track
That
coach
works for me.
and
If it works for you, it works for them.
taught advanced government. In fact, I happened to take the first African American, Black American class there, Black History, in a public school in 1970. After taking the first two courses offered by the University of Kentucky in 69 and 70, and doing my student teaching at Jessamine County High School. Taught it there also. And was president of the Education Association there in Erlanger, Kentucky. Great city. Mayor Feet's doing a great job with their city council.
Mustard onion?
Are these your grandchildren, or getting a little picture with them here?
You're welcome.
1, 2, and 3, and just remember, everybody loves somebody sometime. Makes no difference when, or where, or how. Everybody loves somebody sometime. It's Grandma's time and Grandpa's time right now. God bless you.
I know you from way back. You remember Bill Moore that used to work for the phone company?
Yes, I
do. That was my dad.
Is that right?
I'm the youngest son.
Oh, I'll be dang. Let me get a picture here of you. Now, hang on just a second. Gotcha. Bill Moore was your dad. Now, where did he go to high school? Where did he go to high school?
Dad went to Dayton High School.
To Dayton High School. And he worked for the phone company.
And he worked for the phone company, yeah.
Fantastic.
Consolidated phone company in Dune County. And
yep.
Then he went to Cincinnati Bell and they purchased.
Well, God bless you. And give me your names. Who are they now? God bless you all. Have a Merry Christmas. On YouTube.
I'll sue him. I got a witness right here. You be my witness, we'll sue him for her.
I just tell her she can go out on YouTube and watch all this. And
You're welcome.
here's one of my cards, and there's no charge or anything. You can watch it all on YouTube and on my Facebook page. If you want to come and see the pictures, the pictures will be on my Facebook page as well as the video. Thank you now.
Yes, sir.
The Villa Hills Civic Club, and this is where they have their regular meetings here with the group's called the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. And they do a great job, and I want to thank this young lady here for helping me get to the car.
You're welcome.
Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition to godly principles. And I'll take a little picture here, or two. Thank you, Lord. Travels with John Stevenson, 859-750-0000. Join us on YouTube under Travels with John Stevenson, or Facebook under John Stevenson. God bless you and have a great day, folks. It was a wonderful afternoon. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.